Welcome to the Higher Ed Demand Gen podcast, helping higher education marketing leaders share knowledge about learning, strategies, and tactics that are relevant today. See what you can learn today by listening to one of our episodes.
Hello, everyone. Welcome to the Higher Ed Demand Gen podcast hosted by Concept 3D. If you like our content, please follow and subscribe to us on your respective listening channels. As always, I'm Shiro Hattori, your host today, and I'm super excited to talk about social media marketing for the best college in the world, which is MIT. And I didn't just come up with that as a clickbait title. I actually looked up the ranking, and according to QS, that is in fact true. So I'm very excited. And for the conversation, I'm thrilled to speak with Jenny Lee Fowler. She's the director of social media strategy at MIT and a recent author of Organic Social Media. Welcome to the show, Jenny.
Yeah, Shiro, thank you. I am so excited that you asked me to be on, and I'm looking forward to our conversation.
Same here. And I do ask all my guests this. Can you tell us what you love about higher ed?
Yeah, I mean, you probably get this answer a lot, but it's really the people and the students and just how much I learn from them, how inspiring they are. And it's a great mission and value set. So that's what I love about it.
Mission driven. I like it. Thank you so much for sharing that. Well, let's jump in. Can you tell us a little bit more about your background, your role?
Yeah, sure. So, my role is within the Institute Office of Communications, and I'm the one person in the department that is wholly dedicated to social media. So I am still doing in addition to the strategy and the strategic planning, I also do the execution. I'm still managing a lot of our social media channels directly. The one thing that's really great is I don't have direct reports. I don't have a team, but I'm a part of a really awesome team. And so we do have writers and videographers and graphic designers, and I work with them, and they're very involved with our social media and providing content for our social media channels. So yeah, that's how it works where I am.
Thank you so much. And I almost forgot to mention, you also host a podcast too, right? If you want to share with our audience real quick.
Yeah, it's through the Enrollify network. It's called Confessions of a Higher Ed Social Media Manager, where I have the privilege of, speaking to higher ed marketers and higher ed social media managers that are grinding it out every day in social,
Uh-huh.
and just some best practices and experiences and lessons learned. Yeah, thanks.
God, that's amazing. What's like one thing that was really interesting or like really stood out through your podcast and interviewing other guests?
It's funny, or maybe it's not funny, in that a lot of the pain points and the issues that I experienced when I began my career, like uh embarrassed, like 10 years to 15 years ago. I mean, I guess that's not
Yeah.
embarrassing. I mean, like years ago, a lot of them still exist, and while the industry has come so far, it's this like $1 billion industry, the profession of social media manager, particularly in higher ed, is still at a very nascent place. And I think it's time that we, recognize that the position needs to be elevated, position needs to grow.
I 100% agree. And I take a consumer lens towards this, but pretty much anything I buy or understand when it comes to like traveling, I digest all of that information through Instagram
Mhm.
or
Mhm.
Reddit, which is considered a social channel. Like that's how I do all of my research now. And
Yeah, 100%. Yeah.
I'm not a Gen Z, I'm not an alpha, right? Like I'm the cusp of a millennial, and that's how I do my research. And so if that is and I assume a lot of my colleagues and people my age also get information the same way, like that is a
Totally.
huge channel towards any business. Like it's probably the biggest channel, and it's ever growing. So I couldn't agree with you anymore.
Mm. Yeah, I mean,
Yep.
that's where people are talking about your brand, and I think higher ed should think of their institution as a brand, because it
Yep.
is, and that's where the conversations are being had about you. That's where people are convincing people to go to your institution, or maybe not, and so it's really important to be in that space.
Yeah. Well, this is perfect segue here. I'd love for you to talk a little bit more about your book, why you wrote it, and some key takeaways.
Yeah, it felt like several years ago, I just felt like there was a lot of talk within industry, that, organic is dead. Organic is dead. There's no point in doing organic anymore. And there were all these books being written about like paid social media marketing, and it was all on the paid side. And, as a practitioner of organic social media, it just, I not that I took offense to it, but it was kind of like I felt like I needed to be a voice out there that said organic is not dead. It's just really difficult, right? But I would say that the organic side is really the side where you're building community. That's where you are engaging your digital communities on the internet in these digital spaces. And so there was it felt like there was a need for it, and I guess, there was an opportunity for me to fill that need. And yeah, that was sort of the result of it. It was okay, I guess I will write this book. But really, like I said, I was a practitioner like early. I mean, honestly, not just early, like throughout my career, I never had a budget. Prior to MIT, I worked at the Harvard Kennedy School. I did not have a budget. When I came to MIT, I did not have a budget. So I think I just had to figure it out. Like at this point, if I said the direction we needed to go was paid, or if we needed to do paid, spots or paid social, I would definitely be supported with that. But it's become a point of pride. Like at MIT, we've never boosted a post. We've never paid for social media, advertising, or to pay like for our content. So it's just thankfully it's worked out for us, and it's the strategy that we've been able to sustain and maintain. So yeah, I would say organic is very, very robust. But it's not just for higher ed. I think the organic side should work with the paid side. Like the organic side is what it should inform the content of the paid side. So when you know what is working with your audience organically, that like gives you like a leg up in knowing that that will probably resonate with the paid side as well. So I think it should, organic and paid should be besties, not adversaries.
There we go. I just wanted to comment on one thing here, which is that what you said, organic is difficult. It's not dead. It's just very hard. But
Yeah.
just because it's hard doesn't mean you shouldn't do it. And
Yes.
when I in the context of higher ed, when I look at other smaller institutions which may not have budget or have very small budgets, like you're not gonna outbid or out budget your big school state system or public school system in your state or whatever your competitor is, right? And so like you do have to get more creative with what you do, and you should
Yes.
focus on creating content that does build community, it does engage your audience, the right audience, and all these things, because you may not have a leg up already. So I like
Yeah.
this point that just because it's hard doesn't mean you shouldn't do it.
Yes. I agree.
Yep. And I know another big focus of your book is about elevating the profession of social and higher ed. I know we already talked about this a little bit, but can you tell us a little bit more about what your book talks about and some of your opinion on this?
Yeah, I think I feel like it's popular opinion that you know social media accounts are not being run by interns anymore. It is you are the keepers of the brand on the internet and in the social space, and it deserves more a mature lens. It deserves like someone that has more experience, because it's really, like I said, it's a sophisticated, and it's a big job, and it shouldn't go to an intern, right? But I think in higher ed specifically, um, this permeates, because we don't always have social media managers that are like professional social media managers that are running social media channels. We have sort of a hodgepodge of those that are in communicators that are also running social media channels, or sometimes you have like faculty supporters, or executive administrators, or someone else that also, like, the social falls under their other duties as assigned, right? It falls under their responsibilities, and part of it is because historically there might have been an intern in the past, or there might have been a young communication analyst that raised their hand and said, "Oh, by the way, do we have a Facebook channel, or do we have a Twitter?" Back then it was Twitter, but do we have a Twitter account? And their supervisor might have been like, "Oh, like, yeah, sure. No, we don't. Sure. If you want to start one, just go ahead and start one." And so that's how a lot of brand accounts came to being. But the problem is, as the social media part of it became bigger and bigger and bigger, and took a bigger piece of the plate, so to speak, the responsibility plate, the job description hasn't kept up. Like, the job description is still communication analyst, or maybe administrative assistant. Oh, and by the way, can you also run our social media accounts, which is not ideal, and is is not the answer. Like, we should not be doing this anymore. And so one thing, and I know a lot of people believe that, and they think that, but it's hard to actually, like, how do you move the needle forward on this? And one thing I write about in my book, which I think is very actionable and practical, um, difficult but actionable, is to have those hard conversations, and to say, if we're really, talk to your supervisor, talk to your department head. Like, if we are really committed to having a professional social media presence, like social media presence that's meaningful and is going to reach our audience, we need a full-time professional to be the keeper of our accounts, to manage our accounts, to provide strategy for our accounts. And so, you have to acknowledge that that's something that you want to move toward, and B, like, you have to uncouple it from current job descriptions, and write a position, like its own position for social media manager. So it's doable, because I've done it. I was at Harvard Kennedy School, and at first I added my title used to just be web editor. And so then I had it added to my title. So it was web editor and social media manager. And I was constantly talking to my supervisor how social media just became a bigger and bigger piece of, part of my role. And it just was growing as a responsibility, and frankly took more priority. So we had that added, but when I left Harvard Kennedy School and went to MIT, I realized that my position was made and became two positions, right? So I was, you were doing a lot of work, but where there's enough for two people. But I think the thing was, like, I had those conversations. I had the conversation during the strategy, or exit interview, with HR, with my supervisor at that time. So they recognize the need for it. And when you do that, you further the profession for the person coming after you, like, instead of making it more difficult. Like, if they're starting from scratch, we're just a hamster on the wheel, right? Just other we're on the other duties as assigned hamster wheel. So I think that's something that we can do to really further the profession in higher ed.
No, this is all really helpful advice. Yeah, it's incredible that your role got split into two full-time
Yeah.
positions. Like, that's good job for you, because that person is at least hopefully not the drinking completely from the fire hose for years
Exactly.
with that
Yeah.
job. And I know you talked a little bit about leading with influence, even without direct reports, right? Like, what are some of the ways you've seen or that you've maybe directly like educated more people on social and what it takes to really have a strong performance towards your goals?
Yeah, this is one thing I'm constantly telling my colleagues that have, are one person teams, right? Because I'm a part of a team, like I said, but I totally feel you on that, right? I don't have a manager, I don't have my own content creator, so I think building relationships, I say build your team around you, and this is something that I mention in my book as well. But build like leading with influence. Look at who is creating content on campus and collaborate with them. Reach out to them, like see if there are any students that are really creating really really clever and thoughtful posts and social media content. And just I slide into their DMs and say and I say, this is really cool, I love what you're doing here, can you do it for us? I don't think anyone's ever told me no. If I say this is a great piece of content from a department lab or center, like MIT is vastly decentralized like so many other universities out there, and we have like 300 departments, labs, and centers, and they're all creating this content. And if I ask them, do you mind sharing the files so I can post it on our channels? I don't think I've ever been told no, right? And so if you regularly open those channels and they know you're willing to share like the flagship account and the flagship audience with them, and I always give them credit. I always give them photographer credit. I always give video credit. I always, give them the credit. And so I think you can build some really, really collaborative and great relationships that help feed your channels, which is a beast. Like social media is a beast, right? But but on the flip side, sometimes I get asked to make these requests, and you said how do you educate people? Like I get these requests that are not fit maybe for the flagship channels, and that person is just looking for is just looking to ask you to post it on your flagship channels, and maybe it's a PDF, or maybe it's something that just doesn't meet your requirements. And I have these conversation, like I have these tips in my book as well, and how you can navigate that. But short of it is like, don't sound positive, make it sound like a yes, but don't say yes. like me, but also don't say no. So my big thing is I always say, oh, I'd be happy to look at it, or I'll be happy to take a look, or just something that sounds like a yes. And I put the onus on them to follow up, right? I think a lot of the times when they do that asking, that checks the box for us, and they don't even check to see if you've posted it or followed through, and that's fine. So they got their box checked and I'm good. But if sometimes they will follow up and say, did you, or I noticed that you didn't post this on MIT's X channel, and that's an education moment, because that person sincerely wants to see their content post shared on your channel. So you can say, oh, I did take a look at it, which is what I said that I would do. I did take a look at it, but the photograph, the image size, or maybe this, or I needed a caption file. Like, just make it, give it, make it an education moment, so that they know all the things that you need for that would meet the standards of your channel, and maybe you can post some of their content in the future.
Yeah, no, this is such good advice, and it makes me think. Obviously, I'm in a marketing role myself, and when people come to you with asks, it like having like a template of just, which is all the time, having a template
Yes.
of like, okay, this is great, I like your idea, be positive, because I personally struggle with this sometimes. I'm like, no, that's bad, like I shouldn't be that negative. But
I
I
mean,
can
I'm
say
thinking
more things
it.
like,
Yeah.
yeah, I can say like, I like the idea. Here's my template. What is your goal with the post? What format do you want on it? What do you want to achieve from this? Like asking a set of questions to have someone objectively, think a little bit harder about like what they want from the ask. Is usually like, if it's just an idea that a shower thought they had, like they won't even fill those out and your request is gone.
Exactly.
But if they really
Exactly.
care, they will be like, no, the audience is here. The goal is to increase awareness for the business goal or something like that, right? And they'll actually have a planned out thought. And I think that's a great way to, like, again, what you said, put onus on the other person, which is a great piece of advice. I had another question. So I think part of your story about capturing stories across campus and creating campus partnerships that way is a great idea. I love it. When I ran social, I have some experience with it. Like I felt like if I didn't understand the social media platform I was on, I
Mhm.
couldn't also market on it properly. And
Mhm.
like I think I've always struggled, or I always thought it was hard to balance how much consumption you need of a certain
Yeah.
platform in order to also be effective in your distribution of your content. Like so like do I need to spend 1 hour a day on Instagram in order to come up with like a, an hour of work for Instagram? Like I don't know, have
Yeah.
you ever struck a balance with that?
Yeah, so I mean, scrolling is in our profession, scrolling is research. I mean, that's true. And I do tell people, if you are a personal user of the platform, then that's helpful to be a professional to provide strategy of a platform, because you know how content is best consumed, you know how people are speaking, the vernacular, or just how people are using and consuming content on the platform. So I think that's important. But for my friends and colleagues in higher ed, where there's always going to be a new social media platform, I have an anecdote about it in my book about how many like apps I have on my phone, and half of them are like beta versions of of platforms that never really take off, and so no one's heard about them. But the sort of the joke is that, like, the person that when I was getting a new phone, they were just like, you have like 295 apps on your phone. They're like, this phone transfer, because I was getting a new phone. They're like, this is gonna take a while. And my response was like, is that a lot? Like, I don't know. I didn't think it was a lot, but his reaction really surprised me. But I tell my friends and colleagues, because, like, you're only one person and you're doing all of the things, right? A lot of our colleagues are doing events, in addition to supporting faculty, in addition to all of the other things. And so, um, and I am a big believer is if that the content is good, if the content is awesome, then your audience will share it for you in whatever platform that they like to use. So the term that I use is, it jumps platforms. So think of how many times you've seen X posts on Instagram. Think about how many times you've seen TikTok in Reels. Think about how many times people have emailed you YouTube videos, right? Think about how many times people have DM'd you Instagram posts. And so if it is good, if you concentrate on the shareability, then it will jump it will jump platforms. And so I tell them to pick the platform that you like. I mean, it also has to be like a fit for the institution or organization. And if you want to do Instagram, you have to have videos and photos, and that. But say the user, like the person, the professional, is like, I love Instagram but I don't like X, then I just tell them, don't worry about X, focus on Instagram. Like, I think there has to be like a good feeling too among the professional using the platform, because I mean, if you hate doing it, you're not gonna like build an audience. Like, you're like, oh, I hate platform Y, and it makes me feel horrible even opening the platform. That's not going to work. Right. So I think there's a lot of factors, and it being a fit is one of them.
I really like this, and this actually reminds me of conversation with Bowling Green State that I had. Uh, I think is Brianna. She is their same like director of social media
Mm.
there, and they have more of an enrollment focus than I think your brand does. But their whole thing was around what the algorithm, especially Instagram, is moving towards is shareability. It's not about the viral posts anymore, but it's like, how can I create a piece of content that I know is going to be shared through DMs, through another post, maybe through another platform. and focusing on that was one of their key metrics. They don't even track like views or impressions anymore because they track shareability, and
Yeah.
that's a great point.
That's amazing. Yeah, I love that strategy. Yeah.
Yep, it's great. Well, talking about learnings from what you've been up to and in your role for the past decade, like what are some things that you've really learned that we haven't talked about yet? I know saying no with positivity is one of them, but like
Yeah.
I guess let's talk about a little bit about the goal, like of all your social accounts. Like, I think your goal may be slightly different than another school that
Yeah.
focuses on enrollment. Can you start there?
Yeah. I guess, I have the great fortune of really, not having to worry about enrollment. I mean, like you mentioned earlier, and we're very fortunate that we have been ranked number one by QS universities, and we don't have a lack of applicants, so that's not one of my key focuses. And our admissions department is awesome. They were so good at what they do. Prospective students is definitely one of my audience segments, but it's not like the primary. I think, the way MIT approaches it, and because MIT is such a strong global brand, we do approach it in more of a B to C, um, like feeling and strategy, because a lot of what we do is to reach a global audience and to reaffirm our brand and to make sure that we're known as that leading institution in science research
Mhm.
and technology. So it is different from a lot of schools, but yeah, engagements is still, like you said, at Bowling Green, they're focused on the sharing. Engagements is really what I've based, our presence on.
Yeah, no, I mean, and I think there's a lot we can learn about this. Is that if I don't know social media, like you might be like, go do social media. Like I hired Jenny, go do social media. But I like your point. Like, and sure, like you may not have enrollment issues or people applying issues in the applications, but you do have set goals for your social accounts and what they're for, and they're not always for one thing. And that's like the thing I want people to take away that are listening that don't know about social is like you need to set your goals for social. Like, what are you trying to achieve? Is the resources you have to achieve that realistic? Like all these things, right? And so, like for you, you've already outlined in your role, like reputation management is like a big part of your accounts, and that's what you're doing it for, and that helps. I feel like form the overall strategy of everything you do, right? And I think that's just so comprehensive.
Yeah. Yeah, I absolutely agree. And I talk about goal setting a lot in the book as well. But that goal is your North Star. And it's not like you have one goal, right? And I mean, we've got messaging priorities that come from the president of MIT. And, when
Hmm.
we had a new president, those messaging priorities, they changed. But definitely your North Star should be something that's constant and something that just doesn't change with the seasons. It's something that you focus on for a long time and super important. Like you said, it's super important.
That's great. That's fantastic. And how many collective followers do you have across all your accounts? I don't know if you talked about this yet.
Yeah, no, so we just reached like more than 6.5 million followers on all of our active channels. Um, so yeah, it's been amazing. Yeah.
That's insane, by the way. That's amazing. I had this weird, I guess, podcast thought, not a shower thought, during our call that I often use the phrase because I talk about website a lot too and the importance of a high performing
Mhm.
website for higher ed. And I say that your website, your higher ed website, is the most visited and most important building on campus, even though we're talking virtually, right? More people go to your website than visit your
Mhm.
campus in general. Definitely by far more than any building on campus,
Mhm.
actual
Mhm.
physical building. But yet, so much money and time goes in investing in a building. But like, I still feel
It's
like
interesting.
the digital resources get scrapped. But it made me think a higher ed social account may actually be the most viewed building on campus, not visited, like physically visited, but depending on how big your accounts are, like they might get the most eyeballs out of any other asset in your brand. So just kind of
Yeah.
Our thought.
Yeah, no, I actually love that. And really, we built the social media hub at mit.edu. It's sort of an aggregate of all of our affiliates, or most of our affiliate channels on campus. And the goal for it was to give those who will never be able to set foot on our campus, to give them a real time look and feel of what is going on campus. So it sort of aggregates all of the social posts that are going out, and we want to give a snapshot of the energy and the activity that's going on campus at any given time. And that's exactly right, because like, we have a global audience. Most of them are never going to be able to set foot on campus or visit Cambridge, but they are interested. They're still a valid and valuable part of our community, our digital community, and we want them to experience it as close as, maybe bring that experience to them, as meaningfully and as closely as we can.
I mean, you're doing the work for all of higher ed. I just had a podcast with Tamlin Powell, who's leading an initiative to change the perception of higher ed in the U.S. as a whole. And one of her key phrases is, "I want people not in higher ed to support higher ed." She wants
Mm-hmm.
people that maybe aren't in school or didn't go to school to still want to be like, "Hey, I support higher ed because it 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 pushes our country forward into innovation. It helps
Mm-hmm.
sustain jobs. It helps us stay relevant in the world economics and power." So like I feel like there's a little glimpse of that in you handling all the social channels, because if you're part of the community, you still support it whether you're in it or not.
Yeah, and
That's great.
that's sort of one of our goals too, and a vision we have going into this new year. So, yeah, I'm with her.
That's great. Awesome. Well, I think we're just at about time. It's been an awesome conversation. I'm wondering where our listeners can learn more about your book or where to find it, and then also connect with you.
Yeah, so I think the easiest is, like, the book is on Amazon, but if you do a Google search, it'll come up. Um, I am in all of the social media platforms, but I think LinkedIn is an easy way to find me. I'm also active on X, Blue Sky, and Instagram. Just Jenny Lee Fowler will get you to me. And I do really try hard to post different content in each platform. So it's whichever experience or side of me you want to see. You'll see more of my daughter on Instagram. So if you want to see mom me, you want to see professional me, that's more like LinkedIn and X. And yeah, I mean, the one thing I'll add is, I am a faculty member in the digital community cohort by Josie Alquist, and it's a cohort learning group for social media strategy and how to move forward, how to set a strategy, how to set goals, or if you're more sophisticated and more advanced in where you are, like how you manage up with social media and how you get more buy-in or how you create more influence. So it's for all levels, and registration is literally open right now. So if you look digital community cohort, I'm sure we'll add the link in the show notes. And
Yep.
yeah, I would love to see your listeners there, Shiro.
That's awesome. Is this is the first time I'm hearing about this group? Is this like specific to higher ed social, or is it more broad
It
across several industries?
Yeah, so when it was launched, it was it was higher ed specific, but it seems to has attracted people across industries, because it's really sort of industry agnostic. It is, we really just like, we're talking about tactics and platforms and strategy of just social media, and I think it applies to anyone in any industry that does this work.
Okay, well that's awesome. I didn't know about this community, so yeah, definitely check out the digital community cohort. And don't forget, Jenny also hosts the Confessions of a Higher Ed social media manager. So make sure to check out her podcast, where she gets to be on the other side of the microphone too. Jenny, thank you so much for joining us today. This has been awesome. I love talking about social media, so it's right up my alley. Thank you so much.
Oh, Shiro, thank you so much. I had a great time. I appreciate it.